Good day to you. I want to bring you a COVID update. It will include the present vaccine virus battle situation, the drug situation, how do we treat COVID. Thirdly, the geopolitical battle that goes on, along with a bit of history from the Second World War. Fourthly, how it affects kids, the present scenario. So bear with me. Hopefully I'll devote just 7 minutes for each section so that we'll be done in 28 minutes. So here is what I want to describe. When the Second World War was raging, and there was a time it was rumored that Germany is capable of making the nuclear bomb, then the US scientists appointed a committee and they had to convince the US president of that time the nuclear bomb is necessary. This was brought to Einstein's notice. Einstein had fled Germany because of Hitler's anti-Jewish tirade, and Einstein was not very convinced, but other scientists prevailed upon him, and so he also wrote to the US president that the nuclear bomb is necessary. And the head of the committee was a brilliant man, Robert Oppenheimer, a physicist. What they did not know was that he had another side to him, and when the first bomb was done, the uranium bomb, he called it the little boy. So that was an intentional making light of a huge problem, that the bomb was going to be a major issue, but he put it down. He just called it the little boy. Then when the bomb, the explosion, the test experiment was done in the Nevada desert, it was so terrible. All the other scientists said, let's not go ahead with this. Bomb explosion was successful, the experiment was successful. They said Germany is already losing. Conventional warfare, conventional armament is enough for us to defeat Germany. But Oppenheimer said, we have started a scientific experiment, it must be carried on to its successful conclusion. What most didn't hear, some who were close to him, he wrote it and said it when the explosion went off, the huge destructive experimental explosion, a success. He said, I have become the destroyer. He was quoting from a certain text, I have become the destroyer. He had a certain dark glee in this whole scientific experiment. Then they also made the plutonium bomb, which would be even more destructive, and that was called the Fat Man, bigger bomb. They struck Hiroshima with the first bomb. Hiroshima was a larger city, port city, many concrete buildings, so not many died, but not too many. But there were leukemias, cancers, you know all what the nuclear bomb caused. Unnecessary bomb, opening a Pandora's box, and a real thermonuclear battle on now, nuclear stockpiles, each country is stockpiling. And now we have the Indo-China border in a conflagration, 20 Indian soldiers dead, and both parties capable of nuclear warfare. But the story about Robert Oppenheimer doesn't end there. Then Germany surrendered with the first bomb. Bomb landed on Hiroshima. But Japan was still foolish. You'll remember Pearl Harbor bombing. Japan thought they can terrorize America into subjugation and bombed Pearl Harbor, but that drew America into the war and destruction on Japan. So when the second bomb had to be dropped, the plutonium bomb, which was called the Fat Man. So obviously you can see the scientific play on things to minimize the dastardliness of the nuclear power. The first bomb was called Little Boy, and this was called Fat Man. Again, the other scientists said, not necessary, we can win with conventional warfare. Again, Robert Oppenheimer said, no, this is a scientific experiment, we must carry it to its logical conclusion, dropped the plutonium bomb on Nagasaki. 79,000 died, almost the entire population. Terrible ravage. Now, that's the history of modern phase of science. Now, at the same time, at the beginning of the Second World War, Hitler said he's going to make Germany a great nation, and he called all the Lutheran bishops into a conference because the Lutheran Church was so very influential in Germany. And when he was giving how he's going to make the Aryan race supreme, German race a great race, even by that time already Jews were under trouble in Germany, and all the German bishops were silent. But there was a young bishop, 39 years old, Martin Niemöller. He got up and said, Herr Führer, of course in German, we don't need you to make us great. We don't believe in a humanistic agenda that make one nation greater than the other nations. And he told his mind. And then the famous quote that he made, they came for the communists, I did not comment. They came for the trade unionists, I did not comment. They came for the Jews, I did not comment. They came for me. There was no one to defend me. That's Martin Niemöller. Next day he was arrested, put in prison. Thankfully, when the Hitler madness was over, Nazi madness was over, Niemöller was still alive. He was only 44 years old, and he was a voice of sanity because he spoke up about Hitler. So this is about going against the tide. So Professor John Lennox, the Professor Emeritus Mathematics of Oxford University, he's also a fellow emeritus, a rare distinction of two, fellow emeritus in the Green Temple College. He has written a book called Against the Tide. Professor John Lennox, the famous mathematician, Oxford mathematician, and you need to get it and read it, Against the Tide. In it he makes the case that always when powers are powerful, there have to be some people who think against the tide. So what is the real power that is powerful today? Obviously not politics. It seems economics is powerful. So world's decisions are made on economics, not on politics. Political decisions are only meant to facilitate economic decisions. And then there's also science that makes decisions not exactly on science. So the recent discussion of Lancet Gate, when Lancet published articles that are politically tuned, and one of the last ones, 96,000 database, which was found to be fake. Not only was the science inaccurate, but there was fraud also, bringing down the esteem of scientific journals. So I have covered that part. Now at present, China reports a new outburst of the virus. Now this time, the act may be done properly. The virus, there is human-to-human transmission. First time it was said no human-to-human transmission. WHO said it, and by the time they admitted it, world had got the coronavirus. Now this news report of a new outburst in China, cities closing down, what do we believe about this? Is this true? How do we verify? Because now satellite pictures have shown that the China had the virus problem from last November, when hospitals in Wuhan area got crowded. So the satellite pictures have clearly shown a virus epidemic or some hospital trouble was on, increased traffic and so on, since November 2019, though the world got to know about it in late January 2020, and it was timed with the Chinese New Year, when so many people will come to China and get back to their other nations. Then we now know the CoV-2 virus Actually, there's no reason to call it CoV-2 because SARS-CoV-1 is a completely different virus that causes acute respiratory distress syndrome, whereas the new virus, the COVID-19 virus, causes an entirely different pathology. It's not about ventilators, it's about ECMO machines and giving hyperbaric oxygen. Because the problem is not a virus pneumonia, problem is a coagulopathy and hemoglobin breaking down and blood not able to carry oxygen, or hemoglobin not able to carry carbon dioxide. So it's a different pathology. I have done this many times before in different clips. So I am Dr. Lalith Mendis from Sri Lanka. My last substantive post was in a state medical faculty in Sri Lanka as the head of Department of Pharmacology. So if you want any of my previous clips, please send a WhatsApp to +94 77 49 59 214. So we are looking at the new Chinese report that in China there's an outbreak. What was that outbreak? Who causes it, if it is true? Why have we got to say an if? Because we have to verify. There's so much of hidden things happened, concealed things happened in the first COVID spread. Now we have to be very vigilant. Who wants to do a second wave as being predicted by WHO? The second wave, they said the second wave will come to Africa. It didn't come. Now in UK, Imperial College did some studies on 31 different strains. They have all lost their virulence. So this proves the point that the COVID virus was done with molecular tools in a lab. Professor Luc Montgenot, the professor who described HIV virus and got the Nobel Prize for it, has clearly stated it. Many scientists have stated it. First and foremost, Indian scientists said that this virus, what is now known as COVID-19, is a lab virus produced with molecular tools because the bat coronavirus has been taken, the nucleotide sequence, and at the point the furin enzyme acts, it has been separated and a new nucleotide sequence has been added. Something, it's part of the HIV sequence, which made the COVID spike 20 times more penetrating into the human host cell using the ACE2 receptor of the human host cell, be it lungs, be it red blood cells, or wherever it is. This time around, when China says a new outbreak, when the rest of the world finds the gain on function COVID-19 virus, that's a technical term, when a lab has increased the virulence of a natural virus, it is called gain on function virus. Now, all over the world, the gain on function virus, the COVID-19, is losing virulence, proved science. Now, China says there's another fellow popping out with increased virulence. Again, it is said it was near a meat market. You remember the first one also was supposed to be near a meat market, but later they found meat market is far away. No doubt that the first one arose in a lab. But it has an antecedent that the CDC under Dr. Fauci shifted gain on function virus to increase the virulence of virus. Their research done by the CDC, they shifted it to Wuhan in 2014 under Obama regime with $7 million as research money. Because, why did they have to shift? Because Johns Hopkins and Harvard virologists protested that this gain on function virus research should not be done. The place was shifted to Wuhan, but the virus research continued till the Wuhan leak virus happened. So when China says there's a new virus outbreak, what is the intention? Is it another leak? Now, it's a scientific fact that in natural mutations, viruses do not gain function. That's the scientific fact. Mutations cause loss of function. So what is this new virus, and what's the purpose of creating the second wave? the predictions about the second wave and creating the second wave if the predictions are not coming true. Now, many epidemiologists and statisticians have said again and again, Stanford statisticians mostly, that predictions were all wrong and the vast numbers of death predicted did not happen. Now, what is the purpose of the second wave coming out of China now? What's this drama? One, we know they are very keen to get the vaccine. Now today Bill Gates is on record saying life will not be normal without the vaccine. So how did they work towards the vaccine? The most effective drug, cheap and available, hydroxychloroquine, they did not give. I have done clips on this before. Please read my blog, Dr.Lalith Mendis blog.wordpress.com. I have given a little analysis on the recovery trial, how science was dodged in the recovery trial, though Oxford did it, to disprove hydroxychloroquine. Purpose of those trials have been to disprove hydroxychloroquine and administer the more expensive and more side effects filled remdesivir and make it out that there is no drug. So it often goes the Trump touted drug has failed and still there is no drug for COVID-19. Whereas in Sri Lanka and in many Asian countries, Turkey included, we have treated COVID-19 with hydroxychloroquine with outstanding results. So in countries that treated COVID-19 with hydroxychloroquine, the death rate in hospitalized patients, please note me, death rate in hospitalized patients is only 2.3%. Overall, world average of death rate in hospitalized patients is 7.5%. Intensive care unit average is 14%. Whereas in the Oxford recovery trial, in the control group, they produce a death rate of 23.4%, which means they have really put very ill patients, not followed the protocol that is being used by Virginia Medical School for a long time, and Vermont Medical School University, they used a protocol including methylprednisolone. This is the interesting point. Methylprednisolone, low-dose aspirin, tocilizumab, hyperbaric oxygen has been used from the beginning of April, reducing death rates world over, but not in UK because they didn't use it. Now, recovery trial pops up the theory that dexamethasone is a wonder drug for COVID. It's extremely poor science because Vermont University Medical School did titrated dose of Vermont Medical School, did detailed studies, detailed graphs. I can send them to you if you want. Please go to my wall and you will find it if you do a search on Vermont. They did detailed graphs on when to give steroid on the 5th day and stop giving steroids after 3 days. Why? So what are steroids? Prednisolone-like drugs. World over we know steroids, prednisolone, is effective for cytokine storm. What is the cytokine storm? The COVID pathology causes the immune system to be too intense, and there's an immune inflammatory attack provoked by the COVID protein. So Vermont University, Virginia Medical School, and many in Spain, in Italy, many places use the protocol of using methylprednisolone, low-dose aspirin to prevent the coagulopathy, tocilizumab to modulate the excess immune cascade, and heparin, low molecular heparin and so on was extensively used, and it was first recommended by Professor Sharif Sultan, the president of the Vascular Association of Britain. In spite of it, Britain has not used any of those suggestions, so the very high death rate in hospitalized patients. Whereas in countries that used hydroxychloroquine, the hospitalized death rate is as low as 2.5%. In Sri Lanka, out of 1,200 hospitalized, only 11 patients died. So our hospitalized death rate among hospitalized patients is just about 0.9%. So the scenario was built up for the vaccine by diminishing or decrying or illegitimizing the cheapest drug, hydroxychloroquine. So when vaccines are produced AstraZeneca is producing a vaccine, 4 million doses before vaccine trials are over. Now we are told, because people are not enlisting too much and COVID infection is now lessening, vaccine trials will not be possible. So what is the scenario? Create the second wave in some country and then say vaccine is absolutely necessary, and without vaccines there won't be normal life. So there is one needs to watch with all eyes on the second wave that is being reported in China. A very creative idea is what I think. A few more things about this. I have spoken on gain on function. When you leave the issue of migration, now many migrants are in different countries and in a very, very vulnerable situation. Last mass migration happened in the Middle East with the war created during the Obama regime. Yes. So who creates migration for what purpose? When people become migrants, economically vulnerable, angry and displaced, they are easy targets for organization by left-wing movements. This is the result of sudden migration, unhappy migrants who have lost their original country, and in their new country they are dissatisfied all the time. So you have to look at the migrant issue as a created issue when you leave your nation. So who makes people to leave nations? What is this engineered thing that happens, brain drain, and for that original nation, and the migrants in different nations live in distress, live hating their newly adopted country, large numbers. So you have the problems you are now seeing in the world. So the point I want to make is, there are those who plan to disrupt nations, disrupt the stability of nations, make migrants unhappy, so the original country loses them, and those who are migrating lose sense of fidelity, loyalty, sense of belonging. So first sense of belonging is to family. I believe God created family. And sense of belonging is in marriage. First sense of bonding is, of course, mother and child, family and child, and that comes from a man and a woman bonding in marriage. So you have to disrupt marriage, you have to disrupt children, and you have to disrupt relationship of children with parents, and you have to disrupt relationship generationally. So when children are O-level and A-level, they have to be sent to other countries so that you lose that generation and their generational bonding and family bonding. If you can't see, this is a planned thing. Can you see that? So you get unstable nations and you get unstable migrants in most of the world's nations. Then we come to the fact that we lose our gene pool in our given seeds in a given nation, true for Sri Lanka, true for any other nation. We lose our gene pool and we import genetically modulated seeds because it is agrochemically driven. So we are polluting the world with agrochemicals, and we are also losing our natural gene pool, and we are importing seeds all the time. Seeds have to be imported because that papaya red lady, those seeds cannot produce plants. That's a fact. And they have to depend on agrochemicals for corn and everything else. And those genetically modified seeds and genomes have effects on damaging the human genome, which is a massive process that's going on. So I can't take up all these topics today. I have written about how the new vaccines with nucleotide material, which are used as immune boost adjuvants, damage the human genome. And then we had a remarkable or alarming result. Children above the age of 6 to 14 did not get COVID at all. frequency was something like 1 in 3.5 million. Children under the age of 6 got COVID effects like Kawasaki. So what has gone on with the immunity of children under the age of 6, created by the new vaccines that children have been getting? Now they have a new Gardasil vaccine, that is the human papillomavirus, with 9 HPV strains. Just the other day, there was compensation paid, though vaccines are not liable, because they made up the case a 21-year-old girl died because of the HPV vaccine, causing an immune complex disease, just like the way COVID-19 creates an immune complex disease. So you can understand, new vaccines, the COVID-19 virus, those proteins involved in those vaccines cause immune inflammatory conditions in people who receive the vaccine. They are the ones who majorly died with COVID infection. Vitamin D deficiency plus other other immune inflammatory conditions induced by the vaccines that have been given over the last 14 to 15 years. Triple vaccine, excellent vaccine. Prof. Sabin's oral polio vaccine, excellent vaccine. MMR vaccine had some problems, but over the last 20 years, the RNA virus vaccines have been the problem. That's a big topic. So now again, 2003 SARS, they didn't have a vaccine, couldn't make a vaccine. Then for HIV, we still don't have a vaccine. But now with COVID-19, they are so sure that a vaccine will be made. But a very recent report said that the COVID-19 does not cause lasting gamma globs, which means it does not cause any particular kind of immunity, pointing to the fact that vaccine will not be successful. However, vaccine is being foisted on the global citizenry, and then they will say there are so many strains, so you have to take a digital marker to mark you and to be read by 5G technology, which needs the social distancing. So this is also going on. So finally we come to the children. So I want you to observe that there's a concerted effort to disrupt the family, disrupt health, and then sexually precocious provocative behavior is introduced by the digital medium, by entertainment and so on. So that sexually provocative behavior will make the millennials and the trillennials and those who are after that, I have made this term trillennials, after millennials, the thrill seekers, the peril seekers, those whose modus operandi has shifted from top-down regulation, the good one, executive empathic prefrontal cortex behavior, has been shifted to bottom-up regulation, peril, thrill, fright, fight, flight, by the digital access the child, a young fellow, consumes. So it's a created thing that kids will get into sexual experiments very early, and then they will not think of family, they will just live, have children, not have children, disrupt family. So the disruption of the family is an engineered thing. And family is God's idea as preservation for mankind and as preservation for nation. I'm suggesting that to you. Please read the book by Professor John Lennox, Against the Tide. You need to understand what is going on. He's a remarkable professor, and that book will give you a good understanding of how we need to stand against the tide of the times. For that, you need scientific understanding. Finally, next 10 minutes or so, I will deal with 7 neurochemical transmitters essential for you, even more so for kids. So when a child is in the proper mode of default mode network of thought, which I think is a God design, every hour for 45 minutes we go dopamine initiated salience, and then next 15 minutes serotonin does satiety, check back, did I get the studies right, have I got to study it again, did I do it right? So it's not only for studies, we are also checking back on our behavior. So that is how the default mode network of thought, DMN, is decide. We check back on things we do. It becomes a character trait. Put the child on the digital screen. For child it's 25 minutes. For adult it's 90 minutes. When I say digital screen, I don't mean doing your PowerPoint, doing your Microsoft Word and so on. I mean fast games and digital, fast cartoons and fast games, 4K and 8K kind of screen. The pixel concentration causes the neuronal and neurochemical changes that pushes you to bottom-up regulation. After a while, you're not thinking, screen is moving you. All digital games, all fast cartoons, all e-learning procedures are like that. You're not thinking, screen starts and you have a robotic reflex. That's how it is. It is not empathic, executive. It is bottom-up, amygdala-driven reaction. So this is how the world has shifted. So what happens is dopamine keeps going up and it becomes addictive behavior. Dopamine receptors shift from dopamine 1, physiological, to dopamine 2, addictive. And serotonin cannot work on your thought patterns to give you that satiety, well done, rewarded, and also the check back, how did I do it, how do I improve it. So that is the dopamine serotonin thing. Thirdly, I want to speak to you about GABA amino benzoic acid. When a child is falling asleep or you are falling asleep, the intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglionic cells, long name IRPG, they trigger off GABA secretion. Now what does GABA do? To understand GABA, you need to understand alcohol, ethyl alcohol. That's right, the taught. When alcohol is working, you lose your sense of balance, you become intolerant, you lose your temperance and your sense of judgment, and you can become vociferous. You may try to sing when you don't know to sing, that kind of behavior. Now when GABA, that is because alcohol inhibits GABA. GABA is gamma amino benzoic acid. When the child is falling or you are falling asleep, when a child is falling asleep, GABA works to give that child, I did that wrong, I should tell mom. You know, that's how GABA works. Gets them ready to ease off and think better and have an easy good night. That is GABA. Fourth, and when you're on the digital screen, GABA doesn't work. So you go to sleep rude, reckless, fighting. That's how your night would be. You will not have your physiological sleep, NREM, REM alternating. You will not have, and you will not have your physiological sleep, and you will be sleep disturbed. Then we come to melatonin. After 6 p.m. melatonin begins to secrete, so please, after 6 p.m. do not give your child excess screen. Do not take excess screen for yourself. When the child is studying online, please give him an old desktop, older laptop, not the smart screen, not iPad, not tablet, not the phone. Chromebook is much less pixel intense. It is better. So I have done 2 lectures, 2 talks on online study. Please get those clips off my wall or my YouTube channel, or just send us a WhatsApp message to +94 77 49 59 214. You can have those clips free. So melatonin secretes after 6 p.m. It's not only the sleep hormone. Melatonin works in all the sexual organs, including the breast, for health. It has a good effect, a peace-giving effect on a certain set of cells called chromaffin cells. And if you are melatonin disturbed, you have an increased liability to get cancer in sexual organs. So that's a big topic, but I want to show you the design and the pattern. When 6 p.m. comes, your whole body is getting into rest, and the melatonin is working on all your vital organs and on your retina and on your brain. The lymphatic system, glial cells of the brain is working. They are working to remove excess neurochemicals and to repair the neuronal tracks, so that you have a good night's sleep and you wake up in the morning, memory intact, connection, collation, learning process, refresh for the day. Did you understand that? This is the purpose of melatonin. If home is full of blue light, LED lights, and you're too much on the screen, melatonin gets disrupted. Then I want to come to the fifth chemical, cortisol. When children are on the digital screen, they are stress driven, so their cortisol is high. What happens? Their fat distribution becomes abnormal. They get predisposed to diabetes, and they get also predisposed to improper fat distribution. So, and they are on stress mode all the time. Girls tend towards chronic fatigue syndrome because of too much of the digital screen. Now, I do an empathic learning center every Friday. You can send a WhatsApp to this number I gave you. If you want you to come with your kid for any counseling, we have an empathic motor therapy center. We do it free of charge, just to get kids out of too much digital addiction, and also to get them into a curriculum that will give them a vocational basis, and that by the age of 24 they are ready to fly, they are ready to grow into their full potential. So we the exercise in our empathic learning center, I get referrals from schools, fellow doctors, students. Our idea is under the age of 12, minimize digital consumption, and from age 14 to 17, a good track of curriculum, keep to the curriculum, the best curriculum according to the 7 brain tracks. I have done one study on this. And from 17 to 24, tertiary education. So from 24 onwards, you're on one career course, not changing curriculum, not changing jobs all the time, which will be the problem if a child is too much digitized. He does not know to decide. He is bottom-up regulation. He's stimulated for this for 6 months, he's stimulated for that for the next 6 months, so he keeps changing, which is not healthy behavior, it's not healthy career potential. So I just moved on a little to that from cortisol. With kids who are too much on cortisol, they are prone to diabetes, their fat distribution changes. One thing more, these kids will say, I hate vegetables, I hate fruit. They don't like either. Both of them help. Both fruit and vegetable, because of serotonin in them, helps kids to maintain their default mode network of thought for 1 hour. As for you, if you keep your 1 hour always planning without multitasking, you don't get Alzheimer. And if you write 4 A4 pages in 2 languages, you don't get Alzheimer. So as a lifelong habit, daily write 2 A4 pages in 2 languages. So what are you going to write for 4 A4 pages? Your thoughts, some essay, write a love letter to your wife or whatever. 2 A4 pages, 4 A4 pages in 2 languages prevents the onset of Alzheimer. That's by the way. But I was really on the topic of the neurochemical transmitters and hormones that get affected in kids in these COVID times, too much online access, and anyway in excess digital behavior. I have presented my academic paper, academic seminar to SLMA, Sri Lanka Medical Association, last in July, on how too much digital stimulation looks like ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So we have innovated empathic motor therapy. 7 years ago we have been at it, and 2 years ago Harvard also got onto it. They call it FIT Kids, FIT-KIDS. Just by the way, I'm mentioning these things for you to understand. You need to protect your child's digital life, child's curricular potential, the character and the career he will get used to. From age 17 to 24, this must be attended so that he will have a successful life. A few more points before I wind up. Our top-down regulation makes us to work initiation, navigation, well done, success, reward. Love affairs also must be initiation, navigation, well-done success is marrying. That's the important thing. Not suddenly ditch and dive, no. Not sexual excess, not promiscuity, because that's where excess digital screen will make all things addictive. Dopamine is an addictive neurotransmitter. When you are dopamine high, you'll do the same thing repetitively again and again without any remorse. That's the problem. When you're addiction driven, no remorse, no repentance, no mea culpa, no check back and saying, I was wrong. So you have a generation who never admit to their faults. Got it? They keep repeating the same mistake. That is digitized behavior. If you want to bring them on a Friday, please send a WhatsApp message to +94 49 59 +94 77 49 59 214. It's free of no charges for it. So thank you for listening. I think I have taken you through a few topics, but I trust this will help you. We'll meet again.